The operating room stank of sterilized silence and recycled oxygen. Monitors blinked with coded urgency, and the surgical drone arms hovered midair, awaiting input. Myra Hale stood soaked in adrenaline and blood, none of it hers. On the table lay the body of Overseer Vector, a high-ranking Jern official. His carapace split open from the explosion. His 3 hearts had stopped precisely 17 seconds earlier. 17 seconds! She knew the number before the tribunal announced it. Across the room, in a secondary triage pod, a small child from the Milne species, fragile, translucent, and widely considered unworthy of advanced care, breathed in shallow gasps. It was that child Myra had turned to when the Overseer flatlined. She had made the call, stabilized the small lifeform first. When she returned to Vector, it was too late. Now she stood before the disciplinary council of Baloran Orbit Medical Hub, hands trembling but her gaze firm. "You acted with bias," the chief medic declared. "You prioritized a statistically unsalvageable organism over a key political figure. Do you deny this?" "I prioritized a life," she replied. "I made the only choice that honored the oath." The room, filled with polished armor and protocol, fell silent. Then came the verdict. "Myra Hale, you are hereby discharged for breach of medical hierarchy and professional conduct. Effective immediately." They didn't allow her to collect her belongings. No goodbyes. Just a silent walk through the corridor of glass that hung above the Baloran atmosphere, where stars blinked indifferently at human error. She paused, placing a palm on the transparent panel, watching shuttles zip past below. Somewhere, the Milne child was breathing steadily in the post-op ward. That would have to be enough. Behind her, the chief medic's voice echoed one last time. "This station has no place for sentiment, Nurse Hale. You should have remembered that." She boarded her shuttle with nothing but a duffel bag, her ID strip now deactivated. Her medical license flagged across 5 systems. As her craft detached from the docking bay, she didn't plot a course. She didn't even care. She drifted, silent, letting the current of star traffic push her into the rim of unregulated space. That's when the distress signal came. It wasn't on the standard emergency band, no encryption she recognized. Just a raw, pulsing scream of broken binary and electromagnetic stuttering. Her console lit up red, external pressure flux, engine coil destabilizing. Myra should have turned away. Instead, she followed it. The atmosphere of the planet tore at her ship like claws. Shields flickered, cracked. She rerouted power manually, knuckles white, as the shuttle plummeted into the stratosphere of an unnamed wasteland near the galactic edge. Her descent ended in a crater of dust and debris, but she was alive, and her ship mostly was not. She staggered out into searing wind and pale twilight. The sky was tinged in violet ash. Mountains like jagged bone pierced the horizon, but it was the silence that struck her most, vast, expectant, not dead but waiting. Then she saw it. Half buried in collapsed stone, its body coiled in agony, lay a creature unlike any she'd seen, even in interspecies databases. Towering, serpentine, with plates of semi-metallic scale torn open to reveal pulsating tissue underneath. A deep gash stretched across its upper thorax, bleeding a viscous, dark purple fluid into the sand. Its breathing was shallow. Its eyes, 6 of them, glowed dimly, barely aware. Her tablet identified the creature with a flicker of red. Xenoclassification, type Wyrm. Threat level, absolute. Engage only under military protocol. Myra stared at the warning, then at the creature. Its body was twitching, almost convulsing. She stepped closer, breath caught between fear and instinct. "Can you hear me?" she whispered. No response, just a subtle ripple in its side. A sharp exhale. A low, vibrating moan, half pain, half resignation. Her boots sank slightly into the blood-soaked ground. She could turn away. She had no equipment, no mandate, no duty, not anymore. But her fingers were already moving, unzipping her medical pack. She worked silently, methodically, using field stabilizers to scan the wound. The internal structure was alien, multiple nerve systems, energy nodes where a heart might be, but the pattern of trauma was something she recognized. A rupture from impact left untreated for hours. As she applied compression gel, the worm shuddered violently. Its tail slammed into the earth yards away, sending a tremor through the dust. Myra fell to her knees but didn't stop. She reached into the gash with a sterilized clamp and pulled out a jagged shard of star metal, probably from a mining drone or a missile. The wound contracted in response, and one of the creature's eyes rolled to meet hers. There was no hatred there, only pain. She didn't speak, didn't explain. She just worked. Hours passed. The wind howled. The temperature dropped. But she didn't stop until the bleeding slowed, until the creature's breathing evened, until the muscles along its flank no longer quivered in agony. When she finally sat back, trembling, fingers numb, Myra Hale realized two things. First, she hadn't done anything miraculous. She had only done what she was trained to do. Second, she wasn't afraid anymore. The worm let out a low rumble, a sound that vibrated through the rock. Not a threat, not a warning, something else, something like thanks. Myra rose slowly, covered in alien blood, eyes hollow from exhaustion. She stared into the darkening sky, where stars now blinked above the wreckage. She was no longer a nurse. She was no longer asterisk needed. But in that moment, on a planet no one cared about, next to a creature no one would save, Myra Hale knew one thing with crystalline clarity. She still remembered how to heal, and for the first time in days, she felt alive. Part 2, Myra Approx. 1,000 words, third-person narration. Emotionally driven sci-fi, Myra Hale had always been an anomaly in the sterile corridors of interstellar medicine. Even during her academy years, while others obsessed over surgical speed metrics and tissue synthesis algorithms, Myra lingered by the recovery beds, memorizing the subtle facial cues of pain. She took time no one else did. She asked patients how they felt asterisk, not just how they asterisk functioned. She held their hands, not out of protocol but out of belief. To most, it was inefficient. To the Galactic Medical Council, it was illogical. And to Myra, it was the only kind of medicine that mattered. Her mother had been the same, a field doctor on Earth during the last planetary plague. Myra remembered the scent of disinfectant clinging to her mother's coat, the tremble in her hands after 72-hour shifts, and the quiet way she smiled at every patient, even the ones she knew she couldn't save. Myra was 9 when the disease mutated beyond containment. She watched her mother lock herself into the triage dome with the infected, her final act of service. Through thick glass and tear-blurred eyes, Myra read her lips as she mouthed one last sentence. Don't let tech erase the soul of healing. It became a vow. Years later, Myra entered the Intergalactic Medical Corps with precision scores just below perfect. But her psychological adaptability rating was off the charts. Patients requested her by name. Non-human species responded to her presence with uncommon calm. Still, supervisors warned her, "You rely too much on instinct. Stick to the system." But Myra never could. She treated healing as a dialogue, not a transaction. Where others saw data points, she saw fear, hope, humanity. And now, on a forgotten wasteland at the edge of the galaxy, with her uniform stripped and license void, Myra stood once again beside a patient. Only this time, the patient was a bleeding worm, an apex alien species marked as hostile in every known register. It should have terrified her, but it didn't, because as Myra knelt beside the creature's massive flank, watching its gaping wound pulse faintly with each struggling breath, she didn't see a monster. She saw pain, the kind of pain that couldn't be measured in vitals or indexed in any medical database. Her gloved fingers hovered over the alien hide, unsure. The scales were semi-organic, like obsidian armor woven with muscle, but beneath them, she saw the telltale signs of vascular distress, tissue rupture, and nerve fiber decay. The wound was old, festering, and possibly fatal. She checked the creature's pulse with her scanner. The reading flickered erratically. A normal medic would have walked away. There was no obligation, no legal justification. and no medkit was calibrated for a species like this. But Myra didn't move. She stared into one of the creature's half-lidded eyes, large, multifaceted, with an inner glow of soft blue. It flickered once, weakly. She imagined it might be asking, "Why are you still here?" And she found herself whispering, "If a life isn't worth saving because it's different, then what's left of medicine?" The question lodged in her chest like a shard of glass. She could almost hear her mother's voice answering in the silence. "Then it's not medicine at all." Myra unlatched the side of her bag and pulled out the compact biosynth unit, a hand-sized, multi-species wound stabilizer. It wasn't meant for alien anatomy this foreign. It might fail. Worse, it might trigger a defense reaction. Still, she powered it up. The first contact was tentative. She pressed the mesh of nanosutures along the wound's edge, watching for any reaction. The worm's body stiffened, but it didn't strike. Its breathing hitched, then slowed. "Good," she murmured. "Stay with me." She worked quickly, improvising every step. Her AI assistant, still partially functional, kept warning species data incomplete. Biocompatibility not guaranteed. Myra silenced it with a swipe. She closed the outer layers first, using the edge of the worm's own coagulation structures to weave a pseudoseal. Then came the deeper tissue, muscle strands, nerve junctions, and at the very core, a pulsing cluster of biocrystals Myra guessed acted like a second heart or energy node. Her hands trembled, but she didn't hesitate. Time slipped. Somewhere in the distance, wind howled over scorched stone and lightning danced across the sky. But inside the narrow canyon where she worked, only the soft hum of the stabilizer and the faint, rhythmic breathing of the worm remained. At one point, Myra realized she was speaking softly, not to herself, but to the creature. "I don't know what you are," she whispered, "but I know pain. I've seen it, I've felt it. You don't deserve to die like this, not alone." The worm shifted slightly, its body curling tighter, as if shielding itself from a pain no one had touched in years. She stitched the last layer, sealed it with a dermal mesh, then sat back, arms aching. The creature lay still, but the bleeding had slowed. Its eye opened wider now, watchful but calm. And Myra, slumped against a boulder, covered in dust and violet blood, felt something strange bloom in her chest. Purpose, not duty, not protocol, but something older, something raw, something real. The kind of purpose that had first made her hold a scalpel. That night she didn't sleep. Instead, she kept vigil under an alien sky, listening to the worm's breathing. And for the first time since losing her badge, Myra Hale didn't feel lost. She felt whole, because healing, true healing, had no species, no borders, no flag. Just need, and someone willing to answer it. The days passed in a strange rhythm, one not measured by clocks or station, protocols, but by the slow cadence of breath and healing. The worm lived. Its wound closed, scarred with an iridescent ridge that shimmered beneath the planet's pale twin suns. Myra constructed a makeshift shelter near the creature's resting site, using debris from her wrecked shuttle and scavenged stone. She set up a limited biosignal monitor, not to study, but to listen. She didn't send a distress beacon, not because she couldn't, her emergency transponder was still functional, but because she wouldn't asterisk. Something inside her warned that reaching out to civilization would bring more danger than rescue. Whatever system had condemned her would surely condemn the worm too. Instead, she documented in silence. Each day, she updated a private log, physiology, neural responses, patterns in its breathing and movement. She noticed how the worm responded to tonal frequencies, even subtle inflections in her voice. It was learning her, watching her as she watched it. Then the tremors came. It began with a faint rumble beneath her bedroll, just enough to wake her. She sat up, bleary-eyed, as the vibrations intensified, rolling through the ground in pulsing waves. Dust spilled from the cliffs overhead. She scrambled outside. The sky was still a muted gold, but something was wrong. The worm, her worm, lay with its head slightly raised, nostrils flaring, muscles tense. The earth groaned again, and then they appeared, 4 shapes breached the ridgeline in synchronized silence. Massive, gliding, other worms. Their bodies shimmered with light and stone, their eyes cold and unblinking. They fanned out, surrounding the gorge where Myra stood frozen. Panic clawed at her throat. She backed toward her shelter slowly, instinct screaming. There was no weapon, no shield, no escape. Her legs were dust-heavy. Her mind raced. Were they here for vengeance? Had she violated some biological law by touching what was not hers to touch? The air thickened with a low, resonating hum, deep and primal, vibrating in the bones of the earth. One of the new worms rose up on its lower coils, towering like a living mountain. Myra's knees buckled, and then a second hum, softer, familiar. The worm she had saved released a low, rolling sound, a harmonic echo that rippled across the canyon. The larger worm paused, then bowed its head. It was a command. The tension cracked, the circle loosened. One of the newcomers, a smaller, leaner worm with streaks of azure across its scales, slithered forward, stopping just meters from Myra. Its gaze locked with hers. And then something hit her mind like a sudden tide. A asterisk pulse asterisk. Not sound, not thought, something in between. Asterisk images, feelings, a language made of memory, her vision blurred. She stumbled, heart racing, as flashes of asterisk genetic memory spilled into her consciousness. Charred worm corpses littering a battlefield. Human soldiers in exosuits firing plasma rounds. A nest of unhatched. Worms scorched by orbital fire. Then a single moment, a wounded worm gasping, reaching out with its final thoughts. And a hand, her hand, offering help. She collapsed to her knees, gasping as the vision receded. The worm pulled back slightly, its mental pressure easing. Myra looked up, dazed. "You remember," she whispered. "You all remember." The worm said nothing, but she felt it in her chest, recognition. Acceptance. She wasn't just a visitor anymore. She was seen asterisk. The blue-striped worm turned and gestured. "No," beckoned asterisk with its head. The wounded one followed, slowly rising, body still heavy from recovery. Myra hesitated for a moment, then followed them both into the canyons. They led her deep into the earth, past stone halls and tunnels etched with glowing filaments. Ancient mechanisms pulsed gently under the surface. Architecture not built but grown, as if the planet had once been alive in a different way. At the heart of the cavern they arrived, a chamber vast and circular, lined with what looked like obsidian pillars, until Myra stepped closer and saw the truth. They weren't pillars, they were neurons, organic conduits, each fused to clusters of crystal and metal, a living nervous system, suspended in a chamber that echoed with quiet, humming intelligence. Her breath caught. "What is this place?" No one answered aloud. But again the thought pulse came. She saw the memory of an old battle, worms falling, a decision made to abandon physical warfare, to build instead a fleet, not of ships in the traditional sense, but of thought-powered vessels, directed through neural convergence, a mental interface, one capable of manipulating a fleet grown from biometal and stellar matter. They called it the synapse core a parasitic control spire, in crude human terms, but its purpose was never control. It was connection. The blue worm approached the core and touched it. A dormant console lit up, flickering to life. The crystal tips along the wall pulsed with faint blue light. Words formed in Myra's mind, not heard but felt. "You are the first human to choose healing over conquest. You are capable." She shook her head. "I don't understand." "Capable of what?" The core responded, not with words this time, but with a vision of starships. A fleet, vast and luminous, hidden in the asteroid fields beyond the solar rim. Ships grown, not built. Conscious, semi-sentient, awaiting a mind to lead them. A pilot, a healer Myra stepped back, stunned. "I'm not a soldier. I'm not a commander." But the core pulsed again, this time with something else, a warning. A memory not from the past, but from the present satellite feeds. intercepted signals, whispers in space. The Ruthari Coalition asterisk, a predatory alliance of warborn species, known for raising worlds, assimilating technology, and leaving only silence in their wake. They were moving, their course was clear. Earth, no alarms had sounded yet. No defense fleets had been mobilized. But the Wyrms knew. The Corps knew, and now Myra knew too. She stood in the center of the chamber, heart hammering, the Wyrms watching in silence. One of them leaned in close, its eyes glowing soft. A final thought pulsed gently into her mind. Will you accept the burden of defense, not for glory, but for the memory of those who chose not to fight? Myra looked at her hands, scarred, steady, human. And in that dark, sacred space beneath a dying world, she whispered, yes. The connection was not mechanical. It was biological asterisk, a convergence of thought, emotion, and neural electricity. When Myra placed her hand upon the living node of the synapse core, a shock ran up her spine and her vision went white. The interface didn't ask for commands. It felt asterisk her, and in return it showed asterisk her. Each vessel in the Wyrm fleet, sleek, organic constructs that pulsed with living energy, responded not to logic sequences or flight codes, but to intention. The shape of her fear, the weight of her resolve, the sharp edges of doubt in her mind, all of it echoed through the system like a conductor's baton. And with every second of contact, Myra felt everything, not just ship movements, but gravity shifts, friction against star currents, the scream of particles as armor plates adjusted. Every decision sent electrical feedback through her nervous system, burning like liquid fire along her spine. Even the smallest action came with pain, searing and immediate. One false move could cripple her, and worse, the fleet. She broke the link with a gasp, falling to her knees, skin damp with sweat. The blue-striped Wyrm hovered nearby, its voice a ripple of thought. You resist. She coughed. Because I'm not built for this. A pause. Then a second voice. Slower, older, resonating deeper. From the asterisk Wyrm matron asterisk, the one they called the first. Her presence pressed like warm stone into Myra's mind. We did not ask for a warrior. Then why me? Because we need one who knows how to forgive. Myra stared at the neural conduit, still pulsing faintly in the rock. A heartbeat thundered in her ears. Forgiveness, she remembered Baloran Station. The tribunal, the child she saved, the official she let die. The exile, the loss, and now Earth. Home, a world still flawed, still political and bureaucratic, and fearful of everything that wasn't human. Could she forgive them, even as they prepared to abandon her? Suddenly, the cavern darkened. A tone of urgency cut through the Wyrms. Shared consciousness. Red flashes bloomed across the core's surface. An alert. A ship, human. A long-range scout, no markings, probably Black Ops. It had entered orbit above the dead moon Myra, now called home. The Wyrm's sensory grid had cloaked her location, but something must have triggered the scan. The blue Wyrm turned to her. They found you. Myra's mind surged with panic, her thoughts spilling into the core involuntarily. The system lit up. 3 Guardian vessels launched from their dormant position above the ridge, responding to her fear like hounds to scent. No, she called out. Don't fire. She reached for the interface, ignoring the rising sting in her spine, the static building at the base of her skull. Just disable it. The ships moved like extensions of her hands, silent shadows. Within seconds, they intercepted the human craft. A shimmer of light, a pulse of magnetokinetic force. The scout ship froze in place, powerless but intact. Myra exhaled, trembling. She had done it, repelled an incursion without bloodshed. Still, the message was clear. She was now a threat to Earth, to the United Systems, to the very people who had once called her one of their own. She returned to her shelter. Her fingers still shook as she opened her portable console, damaged, but barely functional enough for short-range transmission. She bypassed the secure channels. No encryption, no titles. She recorded her message plainly, her voice hoarse. To anyone listening on Earth, my name is Myra Hale. I was once a nurse on Baloran Station. I was dismissed for choosing one life over another. I didn't come here by choice. I didn't ask for this fleet, but I will use it, not to take sides, not for vengeance. I choose to survive, and to give others the chance to survive too. I don't want war, but if you send one, I won't let you touch this planet. I won't let the Ruthari touch Earth either. This isn't about allegiance. This is about worth asterisk. Every life has it, even mine. She sent it, knowing full well it could be her death sentence. The next day, the core glowed with a slow rhythm, expectant. The first Wyrm approached her again. You spoke your truth. They will fear you now. Myra didn't argue. Fear, she had learned, was currency in the galaxy. But so was courage. She placed her hand back on the interface. The pain returned instantly, a scream behind her eyes, but she didn't pull back. Not this time. The fleet stirred, hundreds of ships rising from their dormant nests like birds waking after centuries. Their wings unfolded not with noise, but with resonance, a silent choir of will and direction. Myra's mind linked with the first layer of command structure. It didn't feel like power. It felt like asterisk responsibility asterisk, like the trembling heartbeat of every person on Earth who didn't even know the storm was coming, like the pulse of a child breathing weakly in an operating room. She whispered, I didn't ask for this. The core responded, but you answered. As the fleet aligned, Myra stood in the command chamber, alone in body, but surrounded in thought by an ancient intelligence that had asterisk chosen her asterisk, not for her bloodline or her skill set, but because she once chose asterisk compassion over protocol asterisk. She wasn't a captain, but she would fight like one, not to conquer, but to protect. And as the first light of an approaching Ruthari signal rippled across the edge of deep space, Myra Hale issued her first true command, not with force, but with intention. Defend. The Ruthari did not announce themselves. They simply arrived asterisk. A fleet of obsidian dreadnoughts eclipsing light at the outer rim of the solar system. Their lead vessel, a twisted amalgam of living alloy and artificial consciousness, pulsed with crimson tendrils of energy. At its core was a command entity unlike anything in the known galaxy. Part machine, part parasite, bred for one purpose, to consume asterisk biological essence and convert it into command power. Myra felt its presence before she saw the fleet, like a migraine spreading through the walls of her skull. The core screamed in silence, its ancient instincts recognizing the Ruthari as something beyond war. A asterisk devourer asterisk, a silencer of memory, and it was headed for Earth. Without delay, Myra activated the fleet. They emerged through a pulsar gate above Neptune's orbit, her Wyrm vessels, unfolding from subspace like wings from the void. Hundreds strong, silently forming a protective phalanx across the solar rim. Not a single Terran vessel in sight. Earth didn't know. Not yet. She floated at the heart of the formation, connected to the synapse core, her thoughts rippling through every hull, every pulse engine, every living neural circuit. Her mind was no longer her own. She was the breath of the fleet, and it was asterisk already shaking. The Ruthari opened fire without warning. No communication, no negotiation, just white-laced beams of entropy slicing across the void. The Wyrm vessels darted between stars like living shadows, absorbing impact with fluid shields. Counterfire rained from Myra's command, stunning blasts, sonic torpedoes, dissonance waves designed to disable, not destroy. She gave her orders through intention. Flank left. Shield node 47. Don't kill unless necessary. The pain surged in her spine every time she pushed her thoughts deeper into the system. Sweat rolled down her back, her jaw clenched. She tried to stay focused, but Unit Delta 5 is collapsing, the core pulsed. Vital signs critical. Myra's consciousness surged toward the wounded ship. It was one of the larger Wyrms, an elder, its armor split, internal biostructure hemorrhaging energy. A Ruthari dread spear had pierced its spinal coil. If she broke formation to save it, the entire front would be vulnerable. She hesitated, and in that moment the Ruthari advanced another wave. Command faltering, the core warned. Psychological noise rising. Myra gritted her teeth, hands trembling. Her mind fractured between loyalty and logic. The creature was a live asterisk, not just a ship. It had trusted her. It had followed her to war. She shut her eyes and severed the link. Pain exploded behind her eyes. The fleet lurched in unison, momentarily stunned. She collapsed to her knees, detached from the system, her breathing ragged. With a shaking hand, she diverted power from her own life support pod, redirecting the surge straight into Delta V's core relay. A pulse of golden light spread across the battlefield. The wounded Wyrm spasmed, then stabilized, but Myra's world faded to black. In the silence of her unconsciousness, Myra drifted into memory. She stood in her childhood home. The wind carried the scent of alcohol swabs and garden soil. Her mother sat beside her, older than she remembered, hands wrinkled but strong. "You're not a soldier," her mother said softly, holding her hand. "But that doesn't mean you don't have to fight." "I don't know how," Myra whispered. "I heal, that's all I've ever done." "That's enough asterisk," her mother said, pressing her palm against Myra's chest. "You heal to remind others what's worth saving." The dream faded with the echo of those words. Myra woke to chaos. The fleet was buckling. Her absence from the command chain had triggered fallback protocols, but they weren't built for empathy. The ships had begun to fight like machines asterisk, not guardians. Ruthari units closed in, their primary ship extending an extraction arm, aiming directly toward Earth's inner orbit. She pushed herself upright, breath sharp. The core's voice trembled, cognitive functions at 18%. Reintegration not advised. "I'm not asking," she rasped and thrust her hands into the interface again. This time she didn't fight the pain. She let it flow. And in that state of raw openness, Myra Hale stopped commanding. She listened to the Wyrms, to the Ruthari, to the silent panic threading through every sentient thought space within reach. And then, through the cacophony, she found the rhythm asterisk. She didn't send coordinates. She sent a memory. Through the same neural lattice that once carried fire, she projected a vision. A wounded creature on a forgotten world, being healed by someone with no orders, no rank, no reason, only the desire to help. And the Ruthari hesitated, because in that moment, the oldest among them, those partially biological, asterisk recognized the pattern. Not the image, the emotion asterisk. Gratitude, it was ancient. An echo from the species they once were, before they became weapons, before they became hollow. Myra pushed deeper, more than images now. Feelings, regret, forgiveness, the sound of a heart monitor, the warmth of holding a stranger's hand as they slipped away, the unquantifiable worth of saving asterisk, just one life. And the Ruthari fleet asterisk stopped asterisk. The red glow in their command ship dimmed. The extraction arm retracted. One by one, the dreadnoughts pulled back, drifting silently beyond Pluto's curve. No message, no truce, just withdrawal asterisk. The Wyrm vessels, too, began to retreat, returning to their dormant stations above Saturn's rings. Their energy signatures dimmed, returning to stillness. The battle was over. When Myra opened her eyes again, she was not in the command cradle. She was lying in a medical pod. Clean air, monitors beeping softly. The distinct scent of antiseptic and recycled oxygen told her where she was. Earth, the main trauma ward of the orbital station above New Terra. A nurse leaned in, surprised. "You're awake, thank God." Myra didn't speak. She didn't need to. The silence was enough for now. She turned her head slightly, wincing at the motion. Outside the window, Earth hung serene against a field of stars. Alive, safe. She didn't know who brought her back. Maybe the Wyrms. Maybe someone on Earth who finally understood asterisk. But what mattered now was that the war was over. Not through conquest, but through memory. Through healing. She had defended Earth not by becoming a soldier, but by asterisk staying a nurse to the end. Myra woke to light. Not the searing white of a command interface, nor the flickering red of battlefields, but a soft, natural light filtered through a curved window. Outside, the earth turned slowly, a swirl of blue and green in an ocean of black. She was home, no restraints, no guards, just silence, monitors humming gently at her side, and the rhythmic beat of a heartbeat, her own. She blinked slowly, letting the moment settle. For the first time in what felt like years, her body wasn't bracing for pain. The door hissed open. A nurse stepped in, young human, eyes wide with surprise. "You're awake," she breathed. They weren't sure when or if. Behind her, a small group of children peeked into the room, barely tall enough to see past the bed frame. They were students, no more than 12, holding handmade drawings, ships, stars, creatures that vaguely resembled worms with smiling eyes. "We heard you saved Earth," one of them whispered. Myra managed a smile. "I didn't do it alone." They gathered around her bed, curious but respectful, asking questions about the fleet, the battle, the creatures she'd flown with. Myra answered gently, never exaggerating, never omitting the parts that mattered. When one child asked if the worms had stayed to protect Earth, Myra shook her head. "They don't stay where they're not needed," she said. "But they left something behind." And indeed they had. In the weeks following the Ruthari retreat, a structure bloomed just beyond the moon's orbit. Asterisk-grown asterisk, not built, from fragments of worm biocrystals and Earth's recycled satellite debris. It wasn't a weapon or a ship. It was a asterisk bridge, a center of asterisk interspecies resonance asterisk. A living, breathing construct capable of receiving, translating, and transmitting neural signals across biology, time, and thought. A place not for war councils, but for understanding asterisk. The United Systems Council named it the Interbeing Communication Array asterisk, though most simply called it the Heart, and they wanted Myra to lead it. Within days of her recovery, delegates visited her room with proposals, documents, and urgent smiles. They offered titles, funding, authority. She would be Director Hale, Ambassador Hale, Architect of Peace. She listened patiently, and then quietly declined. "I didn't do what I did for position," she said. "I did it because no one else heard the pain." Instead, she made a different request. She asked to return to the worm world, not as a commander, not even as a representative, just as a healer. They didn't understand at first. Some called it isolationism, others romantic idealism. But Myra didn't explain. She didn't need to. A month later, she left Earth aboard a small, hybrid vessel grown partially from worm DNA. It responded to her presence with a subtle hum, like a sigh of recognition. She landed in the canyon where it all began. And there, beneath the same sky that once threatened her life, she rebuilt her shelter, not as a military outpost or observation post, but as a clinic asterisk. Her patients weren't just worms. They were scientists from border planets seeking dialogue, survivors of psychic trauma, refugees from the Ruthari collapse, trying to remember who they had been before war stripped them of choice. She treated them all the same, with calm hands and a listening heart. She taught, too, not facts or protocols, but something rarer, the art of asterisk listening to beings that didn't speak in words. She taught a generation of young medics, human and non-human alike, to feel beyond species, beyond logic, to detect pain in posture, not just metrics, to respect the silence between heartbeats. One evening, as the suns dipped low and the canyon glowed in amber light, a young worm approached her, barely the length of her arm, shimmering with silver-blue scales. It stared at her, tilting its head in curiosity. Then came the thought pulse, fragile and childlike. "Are you a warrior?" Myra knelt beside it, brushing dust from its side. Her answer came slowly, deliberately. "No, I'm a nurse." A pause, then another question, curious and bright. "But you flew battleships," she smiled. Not with pride, but with quiet memory. "Yes, but not to destroy." The worm's eyes narrowed in confusion. "Then why?" She reached out, placing a hand gently on the young worm's head. "To protect those who couldn't call for help." The worm blinked, then nestled beside her, resting in the warmth of her presence. And as Myra looked up at the sky, the stars shifting slowly above her, She felt no need for applause, for titles, or for history books. The battle had never been about winning. It had been about remembering who we are when no one is watching, and what we choose to protect when no one asks us to. Science asterisk, Myra thought, was never meant to dominate. It was meant to listen asterisk, to understand, to asterisk heal. And for the first time, across stars and scars, she knew. She had fulfilled her oath, not the one given to any council, but the one whispered long ago by her mother's trembling smile. Don't let technology erase the soul of healing. She never had and never would.